Hello everyone. So in the previous video, we have seen how we can train our model using reinforcement learning with human feedback. Today, let's see some use case that we can use reinforcement learning to solve a business problem. Suppose you are building a chatbot which can be used to chat with your customer. In that case, the bot needs to be non-racist and should always be positive. As in the real world, the dataset that we use to train the large language model may contain racist and violent speech, which will create a bad impression if the model give a response in that manner. Also, in ChatGPT, you might have seen how it alters its response to be less violent while giving the response. To make it possible, we'll use reinforcement learning with human feedback. Therefore, in this today video, let's see how we can use it to build a search bot. In the reinforcement learning, there are 3 steps that we have already seen earlier. The first step is to fine-tune the policy model. The second step is to train the reward model. And third step is to train the policy model that we have trained earlier in the step 1 with PPO. So, for example, propose, let's use the dataset IMDb of 50k movie reviews. The dataset contains 2 columns, that is review and sentiment. But here we require only the review column. As for the step 1, the fine-tune a policy model. Here, the policy model can be any text generation model including the Falcon, LLaMA, T5 or GPT. To save our time, here we can use the GPT-2 IMDb model, which is already fine-tuned on IMDb dataset. But if you are using different dataset, then you might need to first fine-tune your chosen model in the dataset that you have chosen. So, for the second step, since our main objective today is to train our policy model to generate only the positive response. So, in that case, we can use any sentiment-based model that it flags if response is positive or not. Therefore, let's use the DistillBot IMDb sentiment classifier model, which can classify the review to be positive or negative. So we can use the score like 95% and 5% as our reward for the policy model and punish it accordingly if it gives the negative response, as we have seen in our earlier video. The step 1 and 2 are completed without even coding. Now, finally, the third part, where we'll be using our policy model from the step 1 and reward model from the step 2 to create our final model that only generate positive response. Every step after this remains the same, that get the query response from the policy model, get the sentiment from the query using the reward model, and optimize our policy model with PPO using query, response and reward. So let's go in our Jupyter notebook. The first step is to install the required packages, which are transformer and TRL, and import a necessary library. If you are not aware about the library, please watch my previous video to get sense of what we are doing here. As we have already selected our policy model, so let's define our policy model in PPO config along with the learning rate, and initialize our models with auto model for casual LM with value add, and define our tokenizer with same model name. The config here is the config that we have already set earlier. To feed the model, we need to tokenize our dataset. So let's tokenize our review column in the IMDb dataset. Here we'll create a function called build dataset, where we'll pass the config, dataset name and input max length, which is as of now for 8. Then we simply pass the review column to our tokenizer and get only the input IDs from the tokenizer. Also, we require a query that to match the output generated by the model with the input. So we'll just detokenize our input IDs to get the query. Then we initialize our PPO trainer with model, dataset and config file that we have created earlier. Lastly, let's define the pipeline for our reward model, which when given the text provides us with a response as a label, and a score. So if we pass the text like this movie is really bad in our sentiment pipe, then we get a label as a negative and a score as 2.33. This score can be used as reward for a output generated by our model. Then comes the main part to train our policy model. The training loop for the policy model contains the 3 steps. The first step is to get the query response from the policy model. In our case, it is GPT-2 base model. In the loop, we can just see PPO trainer.generate, where we pass the query to the PPO trainer to get the response tensor. Then the second step, get the sentiment for the query response from reward model. In our case, it is the sentiment model that we have just created above, where we define the pipeline for sentiment pipe. Here you can just see as sentiment pipe. We'll just pass the query or the response that is generated by our policy model to an sentiment pipe, where we get the label and score for the response generated by our policy model. We then optimize our policy model with PPO using query, response, and reward. Here, we pass the query tensor with a response tensor along with reward generated from our sentiment pipe, and the model will start training after we run this step. You can see here the quality of generated text from our policy model improve significantly when trained using reinforcement learning with human feedback. This method can also be used to create a conversation chatbot to filter out harmful conversation while chatting with a user. Now, to save the model, we can just do model.save pretend with the path or the directory you want to save your model along with the tokenizer. We can just define as this. If you want to push it to the Hugging Face hub, you can just write push to hub equals to true. Then it will just push the model to Hugging Face hub. So that's all for this video. Hope you learned something new. So if you like my video, please like, share and subscribe to watch more.